Hi everyone, we're going to go ahead and do our similarity unit test corrections. If you need to pause so that you can listen or write down whatever you need to, please feel free. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So number 1, it says trapezoid ABCD is similar to trapezoid EFGH. What is the length of segment EF? So we're trying to find this X, the length of segment EF. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to figure out which line segments correspond. Okay, so line segment AB corresponds with FE, and line segment DC corresponds with GH. All right, so that's really going to help when we set up our proportion. So I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do 24. My pen will write 24 over 30 equals X over 7.5. So remember, whatever pattern you use for the first ratio in your proportion, you have to use in the second. So I chose my numerator from my first trapezoid and my denominator from my first trapezoid, which means my second ratio has to come from my second trapezoid. Okay, so now I'm going to cross multiply. 30 times x can be represented by 30x. And then 75 or 7.5 times 24. I'm going to go ahead and solve that. Four times 5 is 20. 4 times 7 is 28, plus 2 is 30. Now that I'm finished with the 4, I have to add my 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry my 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. So I'm going to add that together, and I get 1,800, okay, or 1,800. So my equation is 30x equals 1,800. Now I can solve this by dividing by 30 on both sides. $30 can't go into 1. It can't go into 18, but it can go into 180 6 times. So I'm going to subtract 180 and get 0. I have one other number to bring down. So 30 can go into 0 times. So the answer is 60. The answer is 60. All right, number 2. Troy made a scale drawing of the Statue of Liberty, which has an actual height of 305 feet. He decides to use the scale in which 1 inch represents 25 feet. What is the height in inches of Troy's drawing? So I need to set up a proportion. So the two categories that I'm going to use come from my scale. So my scale equals 1 inch equals 25 feet. So my two categories that I'm talking about here are inches over feet. My first ratio is going to come from my scale, so that's 1 over 25. My second ratio comes from the other number in my problem, which is 305 feet, so that's going to go on the bottom with feet, and x is going to go as my unknown value. So I'm going to cross multiply. So 25 times x can be written as 25x, and 305 times 1 is just 305. So to solve for x, I'm going to divide by 25 on each side. $25 can't go into 3, but it can go into 30 one time. So I'm going to subtract and get 5. I need to bring down my 5 and keep going. 25 can go into 55 2 times. 25 times 2 is 50. Now I don't have any other numbers to bring down, and my remainder is not 0, so I have to add a decimal and a 0. And 25 can go into 50, 2 times. Now my remainder is 0, so my answer is 12.2. Number 3, a square has a side length of 6 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that. So here's my square, a side length of 6 inches. It is enlarged, and the new side length, so I'm going to draw a new square, and the new side length is 18 inches. What is the scale factor? So essentially, here is your original, and here is your new figure. So what it's asking is, what do you do to 6 on the original square to get to 18 on the new square? So we can see that 6 times 3 is 18. So my scale factor is 3. Number 4, Kim drew a map of the Mississippi River using the scale 5 centimeters equals 120 miles. The actual length of the Mississippi River is 2,320 miles. Approximately, what is the length in centimeters of the Mississippi River on the map? So remember, that word approximately means just an estimation, okay? Or what is the closest to the correct answer. So we're going to set up a proportion, but I'm going to write down my scale. My scale is 5 centimeters equals 120 miles. So the two categories that I'm talking about here are centimeters and miles. My first ratio comes from my scale. So for every 5 centimeters, that's 120 miles. My second ratio comes from the other number in my problem. So 2,320, that's going to go on the bottom because it's miles. And I don't know the number of centimeters that is. So I'm going to cross multiply. So 120 times x is 120x. And then I have to do 2,320 times 5. I got to write kind of small here because I know I'm going to have to do some division. So 5 times 2 is 10, carry my 1. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16, carry my 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So 120x equals 11,600. To solve for x, I'm going to divide by 120. To make this a little bit easier, our little trick is that if both numbers in the numerator and the denominator have a 0, I can cross it out. So now I'm going to go ahead and divide 1,160 divided by 12. That right? Sorry about that. 12 can't go into 1. It can't go into 11, but it can go into 116. So 12 times 9 is 108. So I'm going to subtract and I'm going to get 8. 16 minus 8 is 8. Bring down my 0. 12 can go into 86 times. That's 72. Okay, and I see that I'm going to have a decimal. But if we remember our question, that word approximately means like closest to. And so if we look at our answer choices, 19 isn't close, 11,600 isn't close, 600 isn't close. So my answer here is C, 97. All right, number 5. A pair of quadrilaterals are similar. Which statements about the quadrilaterals must be true? Select 2 correct answers. The corresponding sides of the quadrilaterals must be congruent. Remember, congruent means the same size. And so whenever I have 2 similar figures, they don't have to be the same size. B, so A is incorrect. The opposite sides of the quadrilaterals must be congruent. Okay, that's also incorrect. C, the corresponding angles of the quadrilaterals must be congruent. That is true. The corresponding angles of the quadrilaterals must each be right angles. Nope. And then E, the corresponding side lengths of the quadrilaterals must be proportional. We talk about proportions all the time, okay? So they have to be proportional in order for two figures to be similar. All right, number 6. Triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF. Which proportion can be used to find the length of DE in centimeters? Okay, so we are trying to find this segment. Okay, so what corresponds to that in my original figure is 4. So we just have to make sure that we use those two numbers at least. So let's look at A. So A is they have 4 over 3 equals DE over 9. Okay, that is a maybe because that is the correct way to use the proportion. So let's look at B. They have 5 over 15 and then DE over 4. That's incorrect. They did not use the same pattern. C, we have 4 over DE and then 9 over 3. That's also incorrect because they use the incorrect pattern. Number 9, or letter D, sorry, they have 9 over DE and 3 over 5. That is incorrect because they use the incorrect pattern. So my only answer here is A. Number 7, 2 boxes of tissues are similar in shape and size. The larger tissue box is dilated by a scale factor of 0.5 to create the smaller tissue box. What are the measurements of the smaller tissue box? So in order to dilate this tissue box, my original tissue box, to my new tissue box, we have to multiply each of these dimensions by 0.5. Okay? So I have 9 times 0.5. I'm going to have 16 times 0.5. And then I'm going to have 7.5 times 0.5. Okay. When I multiply 9 by 0.5, that's going to give me x. 16 times 0.5 will give me y. And then 7.5 times 0.5 will give me z because those are the corresponding, I'll go ahead and write those out. So 9 corresponds with x. 16 corresponds with y. And then 7.5 corresponds with z. So if you think about it, multiplying by 0.5 is just cutting it in half, right? So 9 times 0.5 is 4.5. 16 times 0.5 is 8. And then 7.5 times 0.5 is 3.75. So 4.5 is x, 8 is y, and 3.75 is z. So let's see which answer choice matches that. So y equals 8, yes. Does z equal 4.5? No. B, x is 3.75. No. Letter C, x is 4.5, yes. Y is 4.5, no. My only answer choice here that is correct is D. They say y equals 8, which is yes, and z equals 3.75, which is also yes. All right, number 8. Mr. Ortiz used similar triangles to make a design. Which statement about triangles in the design must be true? They are the same size and same shape. Nope, that's saying that the two triangles are congruent. They are the same size but different shapes. They cannot be similar if they are different shapes. They have corresponding angles that are congruent, okay, and they have corresponding sides that are congruent. No, if the corresponding sides were congruent, that means they would be the same exact shape, same exact size, and that's not the case. So C is our answer here. Number 9. Pentagon FGHJK is similar to pentagon MPQST. What is the value of X? So I'm trying to find this length, okay? JH corresponds with SQ, and then KF and TM also correspond. Okay, we need to set up a proportion. All right, so I'm going to do 6 over 9. So I'm going to go from this pentagon first. So that means over here, if I go 6 and 9, if I go yellow over pink, then I have to do yellow over pink over here. So that would be 9 over X. Okay, I'm going to cross multiply. So that is 6X equals 9 times 9 is 81. And I'm going to divide by 6. 6 can go into 8 one time. Subtract. Bring down my 1. 6 can go into 21 3 times. Subtract and get 3. I don't have a remainder of 0, so I have to add a decimal and a 0 to bring it down to keep going. Move that decimal to the top. 6 can go into 30 5 times. Now I have a remainder of 0, so the value of X is 13.5. All right, our last question on the test. The two parallelograms below are similar. What is the length in inches of PQ? So we're solving these the exact same way, so I'm trying to find PQ. If we notice here, this angle has one line and this angle has one line, and if you look, they're both in the bottom left-hand corner of the shape, which means that they are oriented in the same way. Okay, so that means PQ corresponds with 16 and 30 corresponds with 12. So I'm going to set up a proportion. I'm going to do yellow over pink over here, so I'm going to do 12 over 16. And because I did yellow over pink, I also have to do yellow over pink. So that means 30 is going to go on top, X is going to go on the bottom. I'm going to cross multiply. Okay, so I have 12X equals, I need to do 30 times 16. So after I do that, it's 480. Going to divide by 12. I'm running out of space here a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to just move it down. 480 divided by 12. 12 can go into 48 4 times. Bring down my 0. 12 can go into 0 0 times. So the length of PQ is A. So after you finish your test corrections, make sure that you turn them in to me so that I can update your grade.